It's the end of March 2020. This is Widnes Rugby Union Club. I'm John Locknown. Normally we'd be at the end of the season with games to go. Half a dozen to decide what titles there'll be in the bag this year. We won 3 last year. We've got 1 this year, won the ADM League. That's by virtue of the fact that the season's been drawn to an abrupt halt. There's coronavirus in the air. First time since 1959 the club premises have been closed on a regular basis. No bar facilities, no concerts, and more importantly, no rugby. We don't know when this is going to end. In the meantime, I'll have a look at some old photographs, newspaper cuttings, whatever I've got in the attic. There may be some videos, we'll see. The first port of call is our match programme desk, where, as well as copies of the 3 books produced in the last decade and still on sale, we have a photo album. On the 16th of April 2009, the first recordings were made for the 50 years of Widnes RUFC oral history. This was just the start of a project that got much bigger than anyone expected. A planned series of anniversary events, based on popular social activities of the past, was also more successful than anticipated. Here's a selection of photos from the website. There's a lot more where these came from. On the 28th of May 1959, old Widnesians voted to become Widnes RUFC. Half a century later, President Mark Cross gathered members for a commemorative beer festival. Past President Ian Nicholson teamed up with Nick Preston and a band of enthusiastic helpers to make the founders proud. Members chose a 50-song soundtrack for the evening. Emma Catterall gave a live rendition of John Ratcliffe's apt selection, After the Gold Rush. Graham Crack Riley started his year in presidential office by recreating the 1960s 20-mile walk around Widnes. It just happened to be his birthday. Family and footsore friends came along for the ride. The Marquee Ball, another 60s event, was reimagined on the anniversary of the clubhouse's official opening. This time, indoors at the Halton Stadium, the night was packed, profitable and popular.
Shining like a work of art.
The Jubilee match, the anniversary of the club's first match with St Edward's Old Boys and official opening game against Liverpool. It was the ladies' turn to be photographed on the steps. Indoors at the Jubilee match, the 50 Years display room was introduced to the public. Members and old friends crammed in to relive the old days over a pie and a pint. As the chief guest was Wigan's Cliff Barker, old friend and president of Lancashire Rugby Football Union. Pies were a mainstay of the buffet.
Trying to get it closer. You're my satellite. You're riding with me tonight. Passenger side, lighting the sky. Always the first star that I find. You're my satellite.
If You Go Down to the Widnes Today was released to popular acclaim. The 200-page book had been the focal point of the Jubilee year. The launch night provided the opportunity for some ex-players to tell the stories that didn't quite make it into print. The book has been shipped to at least a dozen countries, picked up by readers in the unlikeliest places. The first team, largely product of the juniors and colts, also exceeded expectations. Making it to the league playoffs, they lost out on promotion, but secured a trip to the Isle of Man as consolation.
Bones are broken and the will is sunk. How did everything get so fucked up? Do you
Table tennis made a comeback, thanks to Bill Wheeler and Halton Borough Council.
You can always change your mind.
Conkers made a comeback, with no thanks from the bar staff and cleaners.
Build a town and then succeed like an Adam and an Eve.
The weather was kind to the Vets Colts generation game that year. Everybody cheated, everybody was happy. The Colts won the rugby 31-5. That, of course, was just a side issue.
Born to the land of opportunity. Manifest destiny.
The second team lost players to the first. They lost the captain, lost the way to grounds, lost more games than they won, but they never lost the spirit.
To the dreams go the dreams, but the
The Jubilee display cabinet went on tour. Widnes Library and the Catalyst Museum were the first hosts of the club's travelling show, with 3 presidents supervising. Throughout the year, events and traditions were resurrected, with a trip to the Crown, the return of Stan's 70s disco, radio shows, a very full Irish night, and simple reminiscing. Led by Chris Whitfield, the thirds brought mayhem back to Saturday evenings in the clubhouse. The players were interchangeable with the fourths, as are these photos. In the fourth team, Terry Abbott took a touring aside to Hartlepool. The little dolly mascot liked to drink. She wasn't the only one.
Take her to the Christmas dance. Maybe now get in her pants. Whatever. Back with my high school friends, meeting where the train tracks end.
The Wids became the first rugby club to display at the BBC Big History Show in St George's Hall, Liverpool. With a prime location at the very centre of the exhibition, Radio Merseyside's Billy Butler was just one of 5,000 visitors who saw the stand.
Back in my parents' house, back to the shouting out loud. One day you'll be a man.
In its 19th season as Heath Road, junior rugby was alive and well. The under-12s, under the stewardship of Dave Breeden and Dave Holian, received Wids Today books from Graham Riley. Past President George Street helped out, presenting copies to participants in the annual Halton Borough Council Schools Tag Rugby Tournaments. 12 months and 1 day after the first interview, Mayor of Halton, Councillor Frank Fraser, officially brought the 50 years of Widnes RUFC project to completion with a game of matchbox rugby. The Colt story may well be one for another day in its entirety. They finished the season with 4 trophies, including the title Cock of the North as regional champions. And so we came to the close season. Captain Andy O'Neill and President Graham Crack Riley were content, safe in the knowledge this would be a very hard season to follow. Lurking in the wings were 2 future captains and a future president. You can see how they got on in Facebook and YouTube over the next few weeks.